Welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, welcome back to Recovery Demystified. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. My name is Early. I'll be your host. Today I have another interview episode. It is my friend Brittany. I first met her when she came to one of our Dry January groups at the public library. And I think about everyone that's ever come to any of our support groups, like, not to be weird, but I care about you guys and I love you, and I want everyone that's come to seek support from us to find healing in whatever way that they need it. And I just, I wonder where everyone's at and how they're doing and if they're getting what they need. But when I met Brittany, I could see and feel her pain. And yeah, I just have thought about her after that. So I was really excited to get an email from her where she was asking to be on the podcast. And she was like, "Oh, I'm still drinking, but I'm trying to quit." And I was like, yes, please come on the podcast. That is the most relatable thing about addiction, I think, is that moment where we're on the precipice and we're like, this is it. I'm ready, but I'm having a hard time and I'm going back and forth. And there's challenges and struggles throughout. And so I was really excited to have her come on because of that. And yeah, her story is really intense. There's a lot of death and grief in there. And also we talk quite frankly about suicidal thoughts and things of that nature. So if those aren't things that you're ready to listen to, then please take good care. And speaking of people sending me emails asking to be on the podcast, if you're out there and you're considering coming on the podcast, just go ahead and send me an email and we can get something scheduled. Yeah, it's just there's something really special to telling your story. It's healing for the person who's able to tell their story, and then it's immensely healing for other people to hear that and to find it relatable and realize that they're not alone. So if you're on the fence and you're thinking about sending an email, just maybe go ahead and do it. I'd be really excited to hear from anyone. So yeah, without further ado, here's my episode with Brittany. Hello, Brittany. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Just, a little nervous.
Yeah, that makes sense to be nervous. I always get a little bit nervous before I do this too. So will you start by introducing yourself to the audience? Let them know your pronouns and a little bit about yourself.
My name is Brittany. I go by she, her pronouns. I work in the restaurant industry and have pretty much my entire adulthood. I have a very adorable corgi named Ellie and a really fat cat named Gigi. I like being outdoors. I like reading, sports, trivia. Mostly I like storytelling and entertaining the masses, aka getting attention.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we're here to talk about your story with addiction and recovery. So would you start with maybe what it was like for you to be a little kid, then some of your first encounters with alcohol or other substances, and then maybe when things got bad and where you're at with things today? So just start wherever you'd like.
Yeah. So both my parents were alcoholics. They're both passed away now, but so I've kind of been around it my entire life, and it's pretty much shaped who I am today. But one of my probably first memories and traumas was my brothers and I were left in a car for hours on end while my mom was inside getting high with whoever. And, we knew not to go get her, but my brother was a baby. I'm 4, my older brother's 8. We're sitting here trying to feed him, keep him from crying. It's not a great situation. The car was on, so it's we weren't, we had AC, but It was just a really strange. I didn't know why. I was like, well, where is she and what's going on? And I told my dad was in prison at the time. And me being a kid, I didn't know that there was anything wrong with what had happened. Or, I didn't think that I was telling. He called a couple days later and I told him what happened. And of course he knew because he's an addict. He was like, "Oh, I know exactly what she was, doing while you guys were left in this car. She probably forgot about you and passed out or something." So, so subsequently, we got taken out of my mom's home and placed with my grandmother. And my dad was still in prison.
Did your dad go to the authorities about it, or how did?
Immediately. Because he knew the writing on the wall, and it would only have gotten worse. And now looking back, my mom was drunk probably every day. I just didn't know. You're 4, so you see these people that's just their behavior.
Yeah.
So you don't realize, like, oh, they're high or they're drunk. And so that was just my mom, and I didn't know that anything was wrong. So thankfully he did. And then I'm living with my grandmother, and my dad gets out of prison, and he immediately goes back to drinking and using drugs and isolating in his room. So he doesn't really have an active role, in the house, even though he's living with us.
Was he in prison, since you were born, or?
No, it was, I don't remember. I think I was 2. What's actually insane about my father is, I don't know if you know how stringent drinking and driving laws are now. They were pretty lax in the 90s, and you had to get quite a few DWIs to go to prison for it. And my dad somehow surpassed that twice. so that's how bad his drinking was. He was not looking to quit anytime soon.
Did you have any relationship with him at all? I mean, I guess you said you were calling him in prison.
Yeah,
so
eventually he did get sober, and so this was just I'm from basically ages of 5 to until his mother died. He did not get sober, and I was 13 when that happened. And I realized why much later. She was a hard woman. I mean, I loved her, but she caused a lot of the anxiety that I have to this day. And she was just, his trauma, basically. And so until she died, he felt like he couldn't get sober because he would just have to encounter her again and then subsequently. So there was no point. Yeah. And I understand that now. But yeah, I from a young age, experienced extreme anxiety and not knowing, not feeling safe and not feeling okay and not knowing if something else was going to happen. My mom never came back in the picture, and my grandmother was not very nice. I mean, I just didn't feel, I didn't feel like I had a home, and I was ashamed about my home life because it was hard to explain. You're a kid and kids are judgy, and how do you explain what's going on without being embarrassed? So I didn't make a lot of friends because I couldn't really bring them to my house because I didn't want to explain why my dad was drunk in the other room, and so I was very alone a lot. I started reading books, and just I would read probably 6 books a day, just trying to live in another reality. And I started experiencing severe insomnia probably around age 6 to 7. I would just lay awake at night, and we weren't very religious, but there was a church next door, and I remember going there sometimes, and I would pray to this God that I didn't believe in, hey, if I fall asleep tonight, don't wake me up tomorrow. And what a horrible thing to experience at such a young age, and I just felt that way, and I never stopped feeling like that. And so
I'm curious what your relationship with you said you had one brother.
Oh, we're very close. We talk on the phone every day.
What was your relationship with him at the time when you were kids? Were you able to confide in each other?
So complicated because I loved him very much. He was a toy to me because we were 4 years apart. So I got to he was a baby when I was 4, so I was old enough to and so he was just a baby doll to me. But then my grandmother was raised in a different era. She was born in the 1920s. She was very old when my dad was born, and my dad was very old when I was born. So she was very much women are to be seen, not heard, and so boys are so he basically got away with murder, and anything he did, I got in trouble for. And so resentment started to set in, and I would actively do things to hurt him. I'd be hey, why don't you get under the couch cushions and I'm going to jump on you and that's the game. Shit like that. But eventually we grew out of that and became friends again. But I had a lot of resentment towards him at that time because she just doted on him and treated me like garbage. And I was oh, okay. But then my dad kind of did the opposite. So I got mine, I got my restitution later. But he experienced, trauma too, just differently. But, his mom left him, too, and, you have to give people grace. And it wasn't his fault that, she chose to be nice to him and not me. So it's hard to explain that to kids, though. You have a lot of resentment and then, but I forgive him, I guess.
So you were 4 and he was just a newborn?
He was, so we were about 3.5, so he was 6 months, 7 months old, but yeah.
So I guess it's hard to... It wasn't really you could get emotional support from him because he was a baby. But as you were growing up, were you able to rely on each other?
Well, Joseph, it's my brother's name. He didn't experience the same feelings that I did about being embarrassed about our home life, or he didn't seem to care about what anyone thought. He was a very carefree kid. And so he had lots of friends and would run off and go, on adventures and do stuff after school. And I just didn't have that in me. I guess maybe he wasn't aware that what was going on at our home was not normal because it was all he knew, whereas I had experienced other things. And so he was really never home when I was home, and he would come home when the sun went down, and then he would go to bed. Yeah. So we didn't really hang out that much, to be honest. We did occasionally. There were some times where, in fact, he called me about this the other day, where my grandmother would act absolutely insane, and we would look at each other and just giggle and kick our feet and be like, she isn't like off her rocker. And then like one night she was like really on one. And so we just started pranking her, like running around the house, like turning the lights off and stuff and just pissing her off just to be like shitty little kids. And that's what he called me about. He's like, remember when we did that? And I was like, yeah, we were really assholes for that. Like that was not nice. She was a 78-year-old woman. But, so there was some camaraderie like sometimes when, she was like, things got bad and we would just look at each other like, what the fuck's going on here?
Did your grandma use substances at all, or did she just have that sort of mean attitude?
No, she just I can't even describe to you this. She's just was a real mean bitch. I mean, I loved her. Sometimes she would be kind of cool. She would get on the phone every single day and talk to her sister for 2 hours, talking shit about every single person they've ever known. And then she would get off that phone call and call someone else and talk shit about Helen, her sister, for another 2 hours. And I'm like, you don't like anybody. When my cousin came over and told her that she got engaged and showed her the ring, and she was all congratulating her, and that was nice. As soon as Monica walked out of the room, she was like, she knows he's gay, right? And that ring. God. And, I'm like, Grandma, like you can't. Like she's just a hater through and through. And I kind of respect it now because I'm like, you got dealt some kind of shitty cards. Like you shouldn't have to raise these like kids that aren't yours. Like and you got your son over here just being a real asshole, drinking in his room and never coming out, not taking care of his family. I mean, I get it. So I forgive her. Like she had a difficult life.
All right, so your mom was out of the picture, your dad was out of jail in the house and just drinking, and then your grandma was kind of mean to you. Did you have like any support system at all growing up?
So I did stay active like in the church that was next door, and there was a lot of like, since I didn't have a mom, there's a lot of women there that they only had sons, so they would like kind of almost adopt me into their family because they wanted a little girl or whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm appreciative of all of the great women that tried to support me and help mold me, but not really interested in the church at all. So, but I did have people that were looking out for me, but it was always adults, not really people my own age. Like I said, even when I did have friends, just not a lot of them, but I would not confide in them at all. Yeah. Because again, I just felt such deep-rooted shame about my situation and what was going on. And I hate that, that's not fair to me at all, but that's just how it is when you're a kid and you know that your life doesn't look like everybody else's in such a different way. It's not like I just lived with my grandma. That would be different if it was, because I knew other kids that lived with their grandma, mm-hmm. but it wasn't that. It was, I live with my grandma, but my dad also lives there. Well, no, you don't see him around because, he's doing crack in his room, Yeah. And, you can't really, and then our house was, not kept nice because my grandmother didn't have the money to be taking care of these 2 kids, let alone. So, we didn't have a lot of stuff. We didn't have a lot of money. So I just didn't want people to see that. We've got furniture that's got holes in it and, our carpet has, stains on it. It was just embarrassing to me. So I had friends, but I would only go to their houses or talk to them on the phone. And, I couldn't tell them what was going on. Yeah. And so that was really kind of hard. And then, again, I did not speak to my grandmother. So, I just kind of held all of it in and just felt a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and, and a lot of rage eventually and a lot of bitterness, sadness. And then I would stay up all night and sleep maybe an hour a night. And I would just sit there and think about all my feelings and just sit there and basically roost on it and, turn it into something much, much bigger than it was going to ever be.
It's a super hard situation for a kid to be in. I'm really fucking sorry that happened to you.
It's okay. It made me who I am. And I have so much, I was just talking to my uncle on the phone before I got in here about how you don't realize how little empathy people have until you get older and you kind of I'm so thankful for all of the experiences that I've had, all the bad ones, because it's made me a very empathetic person. I'm always analyzing people's intentions and why they would do something and giving them the benefit of the doubt, which, can be also, bad, but I think it makes me a better person. And, hopefully if I can derive some sort of purpose from it, then it wasn't for nothing. And that's kind of what I'm afraid of the most is that, well, if I went through all of that and I had experienced all this pain and trauma and I'd do nothing with it, then it was, then what? So
totally. Do you remember the first time you were drawn to use substances? Like what age you were and what went down?
So I was 11 years old. I remember this like it was yesterday. I went to a sleepover with my friend, and so originally I'm from a very small town, and so it's pretty normal for like everybody there pretty much drinks or uses drugs. It's pretty common. Like parents, like don't really, and they're not really like policing or helicoptering their kids. So I go to stay the night at my friend's house, her dad's house. He's not there and doesn't intend on coming back, which of course we didn't know because they would never have let me go over there if they'd known that. And her older brother was throwing a party, and so we get invited to hang out, and I had a Smirnoff Ice and a shot of Jack Daniels.
My goodness,
what a combination! Let me tell you. And by the time I remember feeling like this is it, like this is the solution to all of my problems. I feel great, and like for the first time in my whole life, like I have never once known moments of peace in my life, and so I just felt euphoric and happy and good, and that was probably changed forever, like that was it. It was a spark. And then I drank more. I remember went and got on the trampoline, made myself sick, passed out in the barn, woke up the next day, and I was like, man, I can't wait to do that again, and I'd never stopped. Since that day, I have never stopped thinking about it, like drinking or using or whatever. Yeah. And I didn't know, or I lied to myself that, like I knew that day that it was a problem. You know what I mean? Like almost. Like I was like, ooh, that's scary. But I didn't know what it meant. And I didn't know what it was going to turn into. And of course, you're a kid, so it's not like I can get my hands on alcohol very often. Well, at least until you're, a little older. So after that, probably when I started, basically trying to get my hands on any substance that was mind altering. So whether it be like NyQuil, Robitussin, air duster, eventually like pain pills, codeine cough syrup, like whatever I could find. It didn't really matter. I wanted alcohol, but it didn't. It was a good substitute. It's like margarine for butter, whatever. And so my grandmother dies when I was 13. And I'm already in the throes of, wanting to be fucked up all the time. And my dad decides, like, the next day to go to rehab. And I was like, oh, so you really have been just waiting on, like, not the day after she died, the day after her funeral, sorry. Yeah. And so he's a veteran, so he goes to the VA in Little Rock. And we stay with some family. And then he just moves us. So I've been in the same town since kindergarten, after I got, uprooted from my mom. The friends that I have had, I've had since I was 5 years old. So now I have to go move to a different town, find new friends, and live with my dad, who has been completely, absent, basically. I don't know him at all. I certainly don't know him as a sober person,
How long was he in rehab for before he got out and moved you?
So he did the typical 28 days, and then he did, I think, like a month-long stint, like in a halfway house or something like that, just to, I think, maybe try to see if he could maintain it before he moved us, and then so I got uprooted in the middle of the school year, like in December or whatever, over Christmas break, which sucked. But I found friends fairly quickly, but it was only because I looked for exactly the kind of people I was looking for. So a bunch of substance abusing kids, and I knew where to look for them, like they all kind of hang out in the same alleyways. So I found my people and started smoking weed, heavily. Like I can't even describe to you how much. For a 14-year-old, it was like an insane amount. And then I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, probably. We had a bunch of older friends, creeps, really, to be honest, because why are you hanging out with a bunch of high schoolers? But whatever. Thankful for them at the time. That would buy us cigarettes and booze and shit. And so, so they weren't my friends by any means. I didn't even know their last names, some of them, but it didn't matter because we all had the same goal. And so that continued until my dad decided, why I would never be able to understand this. Codependence is what I would call it, I guess. He decided to get my mom sober, so he moves her up there too and puts her in rehab. And I was like, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard, but okay. This woman has never, ever, expressed a desire to get sober a day in her life, and we haven't seen her in 15 years.
Had he been in contact with her that whole time, or did he just reach out of nowhere?
Evidently.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, like, they never, codependence, I'm telling you, like, maybe they were soulmates, I don't know. But she had no interest in getting sober, but he decided that she was going to. Well, she gets out of rehab, and guess who relapses? Immediately. And
both of them?
Yeah, and guess who takes her with him? Yeah. So I'm like, thanks, Mom. So that ultimately leads me, like, so I had to call my aunt, her sister, and I was like, you got to come get her. You got to come rectify the situation. Like, this is not good. My dad ends up in jail. It was a whole mess. And so
they drank and did drugs both?
Yes. Yeah. So she comes up there to get her, and she's like, well, you're going to have to come with me. I don't know where else you're going to stay. And I was like, oh, I was just going to hold down the fort here and put Dad in rehab. And she was like, you're 14 years old. And I'm like, yeah, but this isn't my first rodeo. And so she takes me, but anyway, I end up going home with her. So then I end up spending a year with my aunt, and like, my mom's around, which pissed me off. I was so angry with her. And the place where my mom lived was even smaller than my original hometown, and everybody drinks there. So I was partying every night. I mean, I probably drank more booze my sophomore year of high school than I did in college. And it was fantastic. I was like having a great time. And I was like, honestly, I never want to leave. This is great. And my cousin Jessie, who I'm going to mention later, we've always called each other sister. Her mom and my mom are sisters, and we used to live next door to each other. And we would always tell people we were twins and like da-da-da. So we call each other sister. Anyway, she was 2 years older than me and a senior. And so that's who I partied. Me and her, we were just like ripping the town, a new one. And the year comes up, my dad, he's gotten sober supposedly, and my aunt's like, okay, you can have your daughter back. And he was not sober. I did not know that. Mm-hmm. I caught on pretty quickly after she dropped me off, with all my things, because he was doing some real tweaky shit, like tinkering with stuff. Like, I'm like, why are you trying to fix this speaker from 1988 with these power tools? Like, what are you doing? Like, you've been doing that for 4 hours? Like, I don't know what. And so I was like, oh, fuck. And so I go to my brother, and I'm like, I think Dad is on drugs, and he's not drinking, which is interesting because that's a new one. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that might be a really bad indicator. Like, and he said, I mean, at least he's not drinking, and just went back to his video game. So I'm like, okay, cool. We're supposed to be in school. We're not in school, and I hated school, so I wasn't going to say anything. And then he once again.
How old are you at this time?
16.
16. Go ahead.
Once again, Mom brings Mom into the picture. But this time, not to get her sober. No, he just wants to be, relapsed with someone else, I guess. They fight about drugs. Cops get called. Of course, we're supposed to be in school. And we got two drug addict parents that are tweaking out. And they're like, okay, y'all are coming with us. And so we end up in a homeless shelter for kids for almost a year. Because my dad had to really jump through the hoops, with CPS involved to get us back. So my brother and I, that was probably when we became the closest we've ever been. Because it was kind of like us against the world, like here we are in one of the worst situations we've ever been in, and now Joseph's starting to feel the same shame and embarrassment that I felt growing up, and anxiety, because like we don't want people to know, and da-da-da.
What was it like living in the homeless shelter for kids?
Honestly, Joseph and I kind of turned it, I don't know if it was, like a defense mechanism, we kind of turned it into a game. So, like, we sort of just, like, ran it, like we were, like mafia style, like I don't know, like, it was very funny, like, we were, like, bringing in cell phones and, like, just, like, doing real felonious shit, honestly. We were acting up, and I think we just treated it like a game because we had to, so we didn't have to deal with the reality of our situation. So it really wasn't so bad. We were actually having a good time.
Was it, like, jail-esque?
Yeah,
like, what was the vibe?
Kind of, because you weren't allowed to have cell phones, which is why we were smuggling them in. Mm-hmm. And then, you basically, so there were a couple single rooms, but usually, since I was the oldest, I had my own room, but the rest of the rooms were like 2 or 3 beds in the room, kind of like communal showers. We all ate together. There was like a big like family room where we played games and stuff together, but and then like boys on one side, girls on the other, that kind of thing.
Did you have school on site, or did you leave to go to school?
No, we rode a bus to go to school. It just picked us up. Thankfully the bus stop was like down the way, so you didn't necessarily know, because it was in a neighborhood. It was like a big house in a neighborhood that they sort of modified.
Mm-hmm. And were you still getting fucked up at the time?
So yeah, I'm telling you, when you live like that, when you you find your people wherever you just like, it's almost like you can sniff them out. So at school, and I had a job at the time, so I had my money. So I was buying oxycodone, codeine. That was before you had to be 18 to buy like Robitussin. So I was like robo-tripping all the time. I had a teacher who, God bless her, she knew my situation and knew I was like going through it. She didn't probably know the extent of what I was doing, but she knew I was troubled. And like she would let me sleep it off in her like free period and stuff like that, and like watch out for me. But yeah, honestly, doing worse drugs that like it kept escalating, right? Like like a 16-year-old doing oxy is crazy when you think about it. But yeah, kids, man, they find a way to find drugs, and I was still weed, of course. That's easy to find. Yeah, I was able to hide it pretty well, I guess, or maybe people weren't really paying attention. I don't know. But yeah.
And then when you were in that home, were they trying to like find foster family, or like what was the goal?
So we did live with a foster family for a little while when we actually got kicked out because of my drug use.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I thought I was really good at hiding it, I guess, but I got high at work. Yeah, I had to work on 420, I think what it was. And so of course I'm high as a kite and fucked up in an order or something. So my boss found out that I'd smoked weed like at work and like there's a video of me like popping a pill or something. So she told my foster mom, and like of course immediately they like were like, oh, you guys have to go. And my social worker, she said, listen, if you tell me this isn't true, I'm going to have to drug test you. So you can just go ahead and like own up to it. That would be great. And I was like, okay, yeah, no, I did that shit. And so we just ended up back at the homeless shelter. And then a couple months later, my dad was able to regain custody, and things were good for a while. My senior year, so I missed so much school, I almost didn't graduate my senior year. I was skipping school. My dad had no idea. My dad trusted me a lot, and I don't know why, because I was like, you don't remember being a teenager, but I was such a responsible, to everybody, or nobody knew what I was doing. So to everybody else, I'm like, I've got a job, I buy my own stuff, I make straight A's in school. I look like this really responsible kid, and so my dad trusted me. So whenever it was like, filling out paperwork for the school, he was like, here's my signature, fill it out. So naturally, I put my cell phone number down, not his. So every time I was absent, they would call me and not him. So I was skipping school every morning, like at least half the day, just to smoke weed with one of my buddies that already graduated. That was on my way, I would walk to school and like just stop in at his apartment and whatever other drugs he had too. And then I'd show up and da-da-da-da. And I mean, I don't know how I managed to make such good grades while being so extremely fucked up all the time. But I'm thankful for it. And so eventually my dad did find out that I'd missed 20 days of school and like several other half days. And he was like, what are you doing in all this time? And I was like, I just don't like, I made up some excuse. Like, I just don't like school, I'm depressed, da-da-da. And he believed me, which I think he was in denial. Like, he had to be. He had to see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's had an addiction their whole life, like you were saying, people can sniff each other out, Yeah.
And I just think he just didn't want to believe that. And, like, I was getting into all these, like, really great colleges. And so maybe it was because he wasn't able to be like that, like, so functional and so, like, still being successful. Like, he was not like that. And so maybe that's how he coped with it. He was just like, no, there's no way she's doing that and doing that, there's got to be something else. Mm-hmm. And so I do graduate. I was late to my graduation because I got too high and fell asleep. Yeah, my dad was pissed because I woke up to like 42 phone calls. Everybody almost walked without me.
Oh my goodness!
And I was like third in my class, so I was in the front row. So when I got there, I had to like scurry up to the thing. So I graduate, and then I turned 18 in July, and my sister Jessie, she was in the military, stationed in San Antonio. So I go to San Antonio to see her for my birthday, and we had a time. I got gloriously fucked up. Drove some guy's car halfway across Corpus Christi. Don't know that guy at all. Don't know why he let an 18-year-old drunk girl drive his car, but just to go to the liquor store, to buy more booze, and then drove back. Just doing insane stuff for, and I'm illegal. I can do whatever I want, kind of thing. And then I'm gearing up to go to college, which I went to school here, the U of A. And so, yeah, once I got here, things really started to ramp up. I got arrested the first week I moved here.
Goodness.
Yeah, I was ready to make my mark. I actually got kicked off of, so I wasn't allowed to park on campus for the rest of the year, which was fun because I lived on campus.
What did you get arrested for, if you want to share the story?
Yeah, sure. So I went to a party off of Weddington and got blackout drunk, drove back here because it's where I lived on campus. I parked. I did not know that there was a police station on campus, on campus, and so I parked right there, just parked in that little parking spot right in front of it. And then I was really, really drunk, and I knew I had a really long walk because I lived like kind of by the Garland parking garage, and I'm over here by the stadium. But there was no parking anywhere near, like close to my dorm. And so I was like gearing myself up to do this very, very, very long, treacherous walk in the dark at 3 a.m. I open my car door. I fall out of my car. And of course, there's a cop watching me the whole time. And so I gather my things and start walking, and she stops me, and I go, oh, fuck. And she asked me if I've been drinking, and I was like, I'm going to go with total honesty. And so I was like, yes, I've been drinking. I didn't feel safe at this party, so I left, and I didn't know what else to do. This is before Uber, existed. So she arrested me for public intox, minor in possession. I'm pretty sure she charged me with a DWI, but she didn't breathalyze me, so I got out of it because I was honest. So I got lucky, but because it was on campus, I had to have a meeting immediately, with the dean or somebody, and they were like, "You can't park on campus anymore. Your thing's revoked, and if you do anything else, you're not allowed to be in any organizations." So I couldn't be part of any club. And that was before school even started.
That seems really quite harsh.
Yeah, well, they almost kicked me out of school that same semester, so because I got arrested again. At
that time, did you have any thought in your mind of maybe drinking and drugs isn't going super well, or were you just
no?
What was your thought process?
So actually, I have a really good little snippet. So basically, at that time, I was drinking and partying every single day, and what I was getting, I was a good time. I was a great time. People loved me, and people liked to drink with me. And so I was getting all of the love and attention that I had never, ever gotten as a child from all these people. And I wasn't scared of where I lived or embarrassed about my car, or I had everything that I needed, as far as, security. I didn't feel ashamed or guilty or embarrassed, and everybody that could possibly shame or embarrass me was so far away, so I could kind of remove myself out of that situation. And so I was this really cool girl, and that's a problem, because when you've had self-esteem issues your whole life and you've never been comfortable having people know you or be around you, that was a drug in itself. That was, and so it really started to ramp up. I probably had alcohol poisoning in my freshman year of college 7 times.
Wow.
Because I couldn't, before, drinking was a little more limited in high school and stuff. You can't really, get large amounts. What you got is, whatever punch they made, or, now it's free flowing. And so, I would get a fifth of vodka and just drink it. I didn't have that kind of tolerance then. And I never thought of it as a problem. Everybody else was doing it too. So it just seemed like I'm finally normal. And that was a real problem.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me, especially when you put it in contrast to the shame and rejection you felt as a kid, and then being able to have that social acceptance as an adult and having it come with getting drunk, and having everyone around you just be accepting and uplifting of it. Of course you would do it more. Yeah,
honestly, it felt natural. I finally felt happy, or so I thought. And my first semester of school, and I'd been a straight A student pretty much my whole life, and I wasted potential, to be honest. I failed 3 out of 5 classes, and I wasn't going to class hardly, because I just assumed I could just do it, but I did not do it, and I wasn't concerned about that either. And so I go home for Christmas break, and my dad's talking to me. Unbeknownst to me, my father had made a fake Snapchat and added me on it, and I didn't know that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
To keep an eye on you.
Yeah. And so we're talking, and he's like, so I saw your grades. And I was like, yeah, look, I thought, this is going to be easier. I didn't go to class enough, da-da-da. And he's like, well, no. Maybe if you weren't fucking drunk every night at Waffle House with your friends. And I was like, what are you talking about, Dad? And so because I've been posting all of this stuff on my story, Oh
my goodness.
And so then now he's on it, and he's talked to me every single day about it, and I'm like, oh, great. So then I started to get a little more secretive about my drinking, and start posting it, and it starts to become, a little bit more of a, like I said, a secret. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody what I'm doing. So it does get a little better, but not really. And then my best friend died. My best friend Brandon, he passed away suddenly. He had a car wreck, and the drinking changed after that. That was what I would like to call the evolutions of my drinking. Mm-hmm. I started drinking like heavily and getting really sloppy, really emotional. Like, we would throw parties, and I'm like sitting here sobbing on a stool, talking to anybody to listen about Brandon, and ending up in a bathtub, throwing up, passing out outside in the bushes. And so people did start to get a little concerned, but they also were like, well, her best friend died, it makes sense. And that's kind of when the enabling started, because it's like, no, y'all should have said something. But so my drinking kind of just changed at that point, where it was no longer fun. And early on, I was like 19, I think, when that happened.
Was his car wreck alcohol related, or was it just a freak accident?
Well, I don't know exactly. There was some speculation that maybe he was texting, and got distracted, or that there could have been alcohol involved, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. And
he was my drinking buddy. We drank a lot. In fact, he used to show up at my house without even an invitation, with just a handle of Fireball. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I got really, really sad, and I got really, really depressed. And I just felt like I couldn't get over it. It was kind of my first. My grandmother died, but I didn't like her, so that didn't really affect me. In fact, if anything, I felt relief when she died. Yeah. So this was kind of the first time that I'd felt this pain that I didn't understand, and I would just it would just come and grab me. So, and I thought it was perfectly natural to use drinks to relieve that, and so did everybody else apparently. So. Then, during this same time, my brother's still in high school, and I had been kind of concerned about my dad, but I was dealing with my own shit, and I didn't, think too much of it. And I get a phone call. He's relapsed. Once again, my mother's involved, and things are bad. And so I go down to Little Rock. Things are indeed very bad. He's somehow procured a firearm. He's threatening to kill himself. It's just and my little brother is 16, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Oh, God. So I take my brother back to Fayetteville until we can figure out what's going on. Well, my dad's a felon, and my mother decides to involve the police. And guess what? Felons are not allowed to have firearms. All right. So now my dad's going back to prison. So this is great. And I can't get custody of my brother. I'm 19. Not that I wouldn't have, but nobody would give me custody of him. I work 2 jobs. I'm in school. I live with roommates, and I'm in a lease. And so he goes to live with our aunt. And now I've got to get all my dad's stuff out of his apartment, keep it in storage, take care of his finances, get all of his bank account stuff done, make sure he's got money in commissary, talk to him on the phone through this weird, court. I'm like, this is deja vu, except now I have to be what his mother was doing before, and be a full-time college student, and work 2 jobs. And the stress of all of that, it was enormous. And I started smoking almost 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and started using drugs again a lot more, because like I said before, the only reason I was really doing drugs was because I couldn't get alcohol. But now I'm mixing them, Xanax mostly, so I'm blacking out every day.
Mm-hmm. And you're still grieving your friend at this time, pretty recently too.
Yeah, so it really that's another evolution, is now I'm really going for it, and I don't care. Now I know that I want to black out, and that's what I'm going to do. One time my roommate woke me up because I had come home blacked out on Xanax and vodka, made a meal on the stove, left it, caught on fire, and then I just passed out on the couch and threw up all over myself. So that still did not give me any pause at all, because I felt it makes sense. It's justified, because of all the stuff I've got going on. Yeah. And that's how I was able to keep doing this all the time.
It is really frustrating to me that society tells us that we should be drowning all of our emotions instead of experiencing them, So I definitely think that that's unfortunately normal, and also not your fault. And it's just a sickness of our society that it's well, if you're experiencing grief or stress or whatever, just get fucked up,
Yeah.
So.
Well, and also, like we talked about earlier, like I didn't have anyone to talk to when I was a kid, so I didn't really even know how to talk to people. I mean, at that age, I didn't really know what I was going through or feeling anyways, but even if I had more of that self-awareness, I wouldn't have known how to approach that or talk to anybody about it, and I would have been scared too.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, Dad gets out of prison, things are fine for a little while, and then so I'm 22 years old, it's my dad's birthday, and I had just talked to him on the phone at midnight, told him happy birthday, told him I loved him. And then I get a phone call from my uncle that night, and he said, hey, like, I don't want you to be too concerned, but your dad was in an accident, and they won't let me make medical decisions for him. He needs surgery, so they need you to get down here to Little Rock. And I was like, well, why can't I do it over the phone? That seems kind of weird, you know? Like, I'm obviously concerned, but I'm like, if he just broke his leg, they would not make me come all. So I'm already getting really anxious, and I'm at a bar. It's at Buster's, actually, RIP, with my friend Alex, and then that will be relevant later. And so I'm like, okay. So I have like 7 more drinks because I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to be good. And my boyfriend at the time, I was like, you're going to have to drive me to Little Rock because I decided to get drunk, you know, before I go see my dad at the hospital. And then I drank pretty much the entire way there. And I get there, and I wasn't really drunk. I just drank enough, you know, to keep the stress away, whatever. Because that was what I did. And so I get there, and no, he was basically dead. He could have had like a surgery that maybe he would have survived, but they didn't think that he would survive the surgery. And then not only that, they didn't think that he would ever regain function. So he would basically be a vegetable and possibly sentient. So like he would just be a prisoner in his own body. And I was like, that sounds terrible. That was like the most likely scenario. The most likely scenario was that he was going to die on the table, but. So I had to make a decision at 22 years old on what to do with my father, whether to keep him alive on a ventilator until he passes on his own, or try the surgery, and then if he dies, I never see him again because he's going to go straight to the morgue. And I'm just like devastated.
So it actually was your decision because you're next of kin?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, so and the doctors want a decision like now. Like I don't have time to think about it. They are like, no, we've been keeping him, he's in like, you know, the operating table, like we need to make choices. You got 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. I call my brother, it's the middle of the night, he doesn't answer. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, and I made my choice, and I'm at peace with it. So I chose to keep him alive until he passed on his own on a ventilator or respirator or whatever. And I just sat with him for the next 12 hours. I made him a playlist, and I just sat there. And I remember, like, I remember thinking I wished that I was dead instead. Like, I just wanted to, crawl inside of myself and just not exist anymore. And then I had to plan a funeral, which actually, I'll say this because I've had to plan many funerals. It actually is really nice because it gives you something to do besides sit in grief. So I planned the funeral, and everybody, I had really wonderful support. All my friends came down. Like, my friends even got me like a hotel room the night before because they knew I had to write a eulogy and I didn't want to stay with my crazy mom and my Uncle Steve. So I had endless support and wonderful people around me. But it didn't change the way that I felt, which was, at this point in my life, my dad and I had become best friends. Like, we talked on the phone every day for like 3 hours. And so I had finally gotten this relationship from a parent that I'd always wanted, and you snatched it away from me, like, and as in you, the universe.
Yeah.
And so I'm so angry, and I'm so upset, and like I just can't imagine like life ever feeling okay again.
That is so much stuff to go through, like in one life, and then like in a concentrated period of time.
No,
like,
it's sucked.
Yeah.
So the next 2 to 3 years, I don't remember.
Xanax?
I mean, all of it. I was drinking so much. I had alcohol poisoning so many times, and like I would wake up and be so sick every day, like all the time. I would start drinking usually around 10. I had to. Like, if I didn't start, I mean, like the hangovers, because they weren't really hangovers. That's just what I called them. I was drinking so much that I was giving myself like mini, bouts of alcohol poisoning, and so I was waking up and my body was trying to get rid of this poison that was in it, and so I would just give it more, and I had to, and I think there was a couple suicide attempts, maybe not real, maybe real, when you're drunk and when you're that drunk, it's almost like you're so out of control. Like, so I don't know if I really wanted to. I definitely felt like it all the time. I honestly thought of nothing else, but I never really had the constitution for suicide.
Yeah.
So
I've been there too, where it's just like, you know, a couple more pills on top of the booze, and you're like, well, we'll see.
Basically, yeah. Like, I was just like, I had this like recklessness about me that, you know, like, because I didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to kill myself actively, but if it happened, hey, cool, you know, the kind of thing. So I acted very recklessly during this time, especially like I went to Miami on a trip with one of my friends, got roofied, and ended up in a dumpster. Thankfully, no assault.
Holy crap.
But because I had done so many drugs, I knew immediately that I'd been roofied, and apparently I walked 20 blocks away from the club that we were at and passed out in a dumpster. And I didn't think that was I told that story proudly. I thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, well, you are so concerning. Like, if I knew someone that was behaving the way I was behaving at this time, I would wrap them up in a blanket and be like, please care about yourself. Like, please stop this.
Yeah.
And so, you know, to me, they're just funny anecdotes, which that's how we deal with what we, you know, do.
Yeah. Can't go back and change it.
Yeah. So, you know, the next 2 or 3 years, like I said, I don't really remember a lot of it. I got fired from a couple jobs for not showing up on time or not showing up at all, because I'd wake up 3 hours late because I was so drunk the night before. I was using cocaine pretty heavily during this time, which has never been my first love again. But what I found was that if I use stimulants, I can drink more and for longer. And so that's, you know, and I, again, I was still not thinking that I had a drinking problem, which is insane, I know. And maybe I knew, like, I feel like there was a couple of times where I would get really drunk by myself, and I'd be like, and I'd go look in the mirror and be like, you're a fucking problem, you know? But then I would just be like, yeah, but I'm fine. Or, you know, everybody's doing this or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
when the industry, God.
Yeah, and it's like party culture. It's all just like normalized. And then the same thing with like grief culture. The same thing. It's just like, oh, you're just going through it. So it makes sense to me that it took a while for you to be able to recognize that anything was a problem. Well,
and also I had a boyfriend. I lived with my boyfriend at the time. So, like, I never had, this will be relevant here in a minute, but I had somebody that, like, basically took care of me. You know what I mean? Like, so like, there was never a concern. I was never concerned. Like, if I passed out, you know, outside smoking cigarettes, like, he would come get me and put me in bed or what, you know, whatever. And so then I was 27, I think. No, 26. That boyfriend subsequently left me for another woman that he had gotten pregnant, which was devastating. We'd been together for 7 years and had lived together for almost all 7 of those. And also, he was my best friend from, like, elementary school. So I was losing my friend and my partner, but also my biggest enabler and supporter. And it was, you know, emotionally devastating. And then 3 months later, my mom died.
Holy crap.
And I had gone through, because of my dad passing away, she was really there for me for that. And it softened me quite a bit. And also, as you get older and you start to realize, hey, people aren't perfect. This is her first time living too. And finding out, you know, about her trauma and, like, what she went through. So I'd forgiven her, and we sort of patched things up. Not had a real relationship, like mom and daughter, typical. But we talked on the phone a couple times a week, 3 times a week. And I really started to care for her quite a bit. Loved her even. And so, but really when she died, what really died was, like, I'm never going to have a normal mom. And not that I ever was going to have one, but in that little kid sense of, like, you think you might. So that hope was dashed while I'm also dealing with this. And now I live alone for the first time ever in my life. And I do not like being alone. I never have. And I'm by myself. There's nobody around. Nobody around to, you know, pick me up when I fall. And so my drinking was dangerous at this point. It had always been, but now it's bad because there's nobody around. And around the same time, my sister, who had just had, she had a baby, she was in the hospital still when she had a seizure. And so, of course, they do an MRI, and she's got a brain tumor, which they immediately do. Yeah, they immediately do surgery, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do radiation, and hopefully it doesn't, you know, come back and everything's gonna be fine. But we don't really know. It comes back, and so they do another craniotomy, and subsequently more radiation, and she's got, you know, a newborn at home, and she lives 12 hours away. And I'm over here drinking myself to death, so I can't take care of her. And I know that if I go see her too often, she's going to know something's up. So, you know, because I can keep the drinking at bay for a little bit, but I can't, like, you know.
Yeah.
And she's we were very strict about Like, she has a lot of disdain for drinking and using drugs, especially considering our parents were all alcoholics and drug addicts. So anyway, so she's in pain. We don't know, if she's going to live or not, really, because, this brain cancer, it just keeps coming back over and over and over again. And then she dies, and I don't know, why her death affected me more than my parents. I imagine it has to do with the fact that, I kind of blame my parents for their deaths. They kind of had, and it's not that I don't think that addiction is an illness or anything like that, but, I resent them for dying on me, and they kind of made their choices, and their choices affected me very negatively, whereas she was perfect and did everything right, and, was a really good person and didn't, but again, I don't think my parents deserved it. It's just, I think that's why it felt so different for me.
Yeah, and when she was, your sister and, supporting you and being there for you your whole life, and you didn't have that added drama of also, being abandoned by her or anything like that, right. It makes sense that it would affect you really deeply.
Yeah, we're so close. She used to tell people all the time, Brittany's the only person I know that has followed me everywhere. No matter, because she was in the military, so they, everywhere she went, I went. I went to Germany for a month to see her. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter where she was, I was going to go be with her. Yeah, at that point, I was having panic attacks pretty much every single day. And, drinking first thing in the morning, and then blacking out by mid-afternoon.
Did you have a job or anything?
Yeah, and I got plenty of my shifts covered. Trust me, mm-hmm. I worked at the minimum I had to pay my bills, and I was a server at the time, so it's pretty easy to make money quickly, and then I had 4 days off, blah blah blah. I lived in this weird apartment where it's crazy all this stuff happened to this one apartment, and that's why I had to move. As soon as my lease was I was like, I've got to get the fuck out of here. This place is cursed. But it was an old house that they turned into an apartment. So the staircase, I was on the third floor, which should have never let me live on the third floor. The staircase that led to my apartment, it led straight to my door. So it was my own private staircase. Mm-hmm. I woke up on that staircase frequently. Yeah. Because I couldn't make it all the way up the fucking stairs. And that's insane that I still was this is fine. I don't think I did think it was fine. I just didn't care. And I think about it like this. I had this resentment to the world. I was so angry because I was how dare you just back to back to back. I've never had a good fucking day in my life, And it's oh, okay, well, since I have to be here, and I didn't ask to be here, and I didn't ask for all this stuff to happen, I can do whatever I want, and I can treat my body like shit, and I can drink like this, and I can, because I'm owed it, and that's a really scary place to be in active addiction, because when you feel this, you've got the superiority complex or victim mentality, and it's just it's a dangerous place to be because you can justify anything, mm-hmm. and that's basically what I was doing at that time, and so that's. Her death really, I don't think, she died 2 years ago. I think I drank every single day until this January when we did the dry January. And that was part of the reason why I wanted to do the dry January thing and start to try to explore, sobriety a lot more, is because I just got to the point where Jessie wouldn't want me to live like this. And I don't want her son to know me like this.
What was the catalyst? What changed?
I had a relationship that I kept self-sabotaging, and booze was definitely affecting it a lot, and I couldn't control myself anymore. I think when you drink for as long as I have, it gets harder and harder to... I feel like your motor skills get worse or something. It's your brain is so... You've sat there and killed half your brain for 10 years, and now... So I drink... or when I was drinking in December, you black out so much easier, and you act so much worse. And I just got to the point where I had ruined this relationship beyond repair, and I've already lost all of these other people, not by choice, and now I'm losing people by choice, and that just felt unacceptable to me. Everybody else is gone, yes, but they died, and now you've got people walking away from you because they don't want to be around you, and they don't want to be involved in your life, and that just kind of was a wake-up call for me, because if you don't have people, I was you're just gonna, I said, to myself, basically, you're drinking yourself to death, and eventually everyone else is gonna leave too. Your friends, they love you, but not everybody is gonna leave, and then you're going to be alone, and then what's going to happen? So if that's how you want to play this, then just kill yourself now. But, or you can get sober and try to repair and fix and live. So.
And that whole coin flip kind of happened in December of 2024?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christmas Day was the catalyst probably for that. My dad and I always spent Christmas together, and so Christmas is hard. Mm-hmm. And when you have no family left because they're all dead, it makes it even harder. And so the person that I was talking about, that we were supposed to spend Christmas together, but naturally I ruined it. Because as you do when you're an alcoholic who is also a rage baiter and a self-sabotager. And so I had to spend Christmas basically alone. And I don't know exactly what combination of drugs I took, but I'm pretty sure I almost died. I was throwing up probably for 12 hours.
Damn.
Yeah, so thank God I lived. My body was like, hey, girly. And then it wasn't intentional, but it certainly wasn't not intentional. You know what I mean? Like, I just kind of didn't care. I was like, hopefully this works, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah,
and
I've been there for sure.
and I woke up and I was like, that's pathetic. Just get up and care about yourself, please. And so I guess that was just kind of the wake up call for me. Like, I knew I had a problem for a while, but I was just, I was ashamed of myself. And, before I'd felt ashamed about all these other factors, and now I'm looking in the mirror and I don't like what I see. And I would be, if I had to show any of that to my sister, I would have been devastated.
And it sucks to know that you're pushing people away that are trying to care about you.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, sometimes, you can repair things, but just you keep, messing it up. People don't come back. And so just to know that there's somebody out there that you care about that never wants to speak to you again is insane because of your drunken behavior.
It sucks.
So, yeah, and it's a choice. I mean, I chose to, and so, and that's, he's not the only reason. It's because I genuinely, my priorities, like that day, I was just like, your priority has always been drinking, and that needs to change. And so now my priority is nurturing and keeping relationships and being a better person. So
what was the experience of Dry January like? It was your first time ever trying to get sober?
Yes.
How did it go? What did it feel like?
Oof. It was tough. I had a lot of withdrawal symptoms, and so I did 28 out of 30 days. The first day of January is our office Christmas party, so I already knew I wasn't going to start on January 1st, and then I had another Christmas party in the middle of January that I drank at. But then I did do the other 28 days. But the cravings were really bad. Since I had gotten my dad sober several times and also watched him over the years, and I had been in AA, and I had been around this community. Like, I've been involved in sobriety for my whole life, basically. So I kind of, already knew things, the sugar cravings, and just, in general, you kind of feel fatigued and shit for a while, and it doesn't get better for a while. So I just kind of tried to fill my time when I wasn't at work with hobbies and activities, and I kept a flat of Diet Cokes at all times. I'd probably drank 12 of them a day, but it gave me something to, because that's what I was used to, and so I just tried to make substitutions. Emotionally, hated it. I had felt so depressed, I had no dopamine left in my body, and I could not find anything that was replacing that spark. But I also felt, good, clear, no brain fog, and I've been struggling ever since then with the idea of getting completely sober, which I think we all lie to ourselves. I don't think that there's any world in which I could ever drink normally. But it's scary, when you decide to get sober, because you're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this again. So, you kind of lie to yourself, no, maybe you can dry out for a while, and then you can go back to drinking socially. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what keeps happening to me, is that I keep lying to myself that I can go back to drinking socially, and then immediately I'm on a bender. And so I finally had to accept that you're not normal, your brain's not normal, your trauma's not normal, and you can't handle it. And hey, if sobriety doesn't work out, you can always, the liquor store's not going anywhere, you can always relapse, mm-hmm. which is the joke that I keep telling myself. But so, yeah.
Yeah, is relatable for me too. Like, I like to view it as Paul Churchill says, as scientific research when we go back out, field research when we go back out, because it's like, you do get that wormy little thought in your brain and you're like, well, I just stopped for 28 days. Like, let's see, maybe I can moderate. Maybe I can just go out and have a couple of drinks. And you're in charge of your own life, so you do. And then what you see and what I see is that I can't. I go out and I'm like, the second I have one, I'm like, I want another one. And the second I have fucking 10, I'm like, I want another one. I want another one until I'm passed out somewhere embarrassing and like doing something crazy. So my personal research on myself has proven scientifically that I'm never going to be a social drinker. I'm never going to be a normal drinker. And at this point in my life, I'm honestly like just kind of grateful for that. You know, like I found a place where like I love being sober and I'm like enjoying socializing being sober. But yeah, I think it's interesting to try to instead of view those things as like a problem, like view them as like learning about yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, also, you know, if you just look at your past, when have you ever been able to have one drink?
Not since like, the first time.
Yeah, I've never ever, not once. No, not once has it not ended up in a blackout. So why would you think that would change? Yeah, I think another, you know, aspect of getting sober for me is like, it's crazy because I watch my dad try and fail constantly, and I think it's because you have to get to the root of your issues too. Like I didn't become an alcoholic for no reason. You know, like there's lots of them actually. And so dealing with my grief and my depression and whatnot, like that's ultimately what has to be dealt with. And then subsequently the drinking. You can't just get sober and then not deal with anything else. It's like, I don't know if this is an AA thing or something else, but they always say, like, you can't get sober for somebody else, you got to do it for yourself. But I think, like, what they really mean is, like, you can't do it for external factors, because what we do is, right, like, let's say you're performing poorly at work or whatever. Okay, so you stop drinking because you're not doing good at work, and then you start doing good at work again. Oh, well, now I can start drinking again. So when you don't do it because you just want to help be sober and be better, it doesn't work. And so I think that's ultimately like why I've struggled in the past, is because I didn't really want to do it for the right reasons. Yeah. And so basically, you know, if I did it for external factors, I would just make those external factors go away, as we do. So this is just kind of the first time where I feel like I want to, you know, do it for myself and do it because I care about myself and I care about my friends. I also kind of had a really shameful moment not that long ago that it was actually like a week ago that really like affected me quite a bit. I was late to work, like 2 hours late. I overslept, and I woke up to like a million phone calls from several different people from work. And so I show up to work, and they like multiple, like 4 to 5 people came up to me and they said, "Oh, thank God you're okay." And I was like, what do you mean? You know, like, why would the assumption be that I'm not okay? And they're like, well, you know, you've been really sad and depressed and drinking a lot lately, so we were kind of scared that something happened to you. And I was like, so all of you were sitting here thinking I was dead? That's crazy. And I felt so ashamed in that moment that there were people worried about me. Like, I was like, that's not acceptable to, you know, I don't want people to, I don't want that to happen anymore.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a wake-up call, and it makes sense to feel shame, but also it's like, how beautiful that these people give a shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hate to use this word, but it's like, I'm so blessed. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm so blessed and thankful for all of my friends and the people in my life. Like, without them, I probably would have, you know, died a long time ago. Like, they're all wonderful and support me so much, and they're all very caring and empathetic and great to talk to, but just the fact that I'm putting people through this. Yeah. It's not okay. I'm putting people through what my parents put me through. And that's not, why are you doing that? You know, you're just, repeating the same cycles. And my brother doesn't deserve it. You know, like, what if something does happen to me? Then he's going to have lost a sister and both of his parents and another sister. He does not deserve that. Yeah. So, you know.
We're all connected, and it's like we're doing this thing of poisoning ourselves, but it fans out into the community, the effects.
Yeah. So. Well, and also, you know, I think it's funny that we use drugs and alcohol to feel better, but we don't ever actually feel better at all. Mm-hmm. And we actually just end up making things so much worse, and so then we feel worse, and then we keep using, but it doesn't make you feel any better. I use alcohol when I'm lonely and sad, and then I'm just drunk, lonely, and sad. You know, so what's the point? And I think that's where I've gotten to. I wish I could just make my body allergic to it, but you know.
Do you have a plan for the future?
So I'm probably doing things a little backwards, but I feel like it's the right, I don't know, right for me. I did start taking my antidepressant again after 9 years of not taking it. I'm trying to get a little serotonin in here. I'm actively looking for a therapist and just kind of taking it one day at a time, not to be a cliche, but just trying not to drink every day. I have slipped up like in the last week, but I'd get 4 or 5 days in before, you know, the cravings get really, really bad. So I'm just kind of just taking the successes where I can. Like,
totally.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're sober for 4 or 5 days and drink for 1, then those 4 or 5 days don't disappear. Like all of the things that you've done and the healing that you've done and the learning that you've done doesn't go away.
Yeah. And I never feel guilty about the drinking. It's more like the stuff I do when I'm drunk, and I'm like, you idiot. But so that's what makes me upset, because I'm like, you were sober and you weren't acting like this, and then you got drunk and you like absolutely just embarrassed yourself. So dealing with the shame of that. But yeah, I just I think that once I find a therapist that I like, and I can kind of get some resolution to some of my issues and like kind of learn better, what's the word?
Coping skills?
Yes, thank you. You know, to deal with like when I'm sad, when I'm grieving, when like these things come up, when the stress. I think that ultimately dealing with the root of the issue is going to help me the most. So
totally. And I don't think one day at a time is a cliche at all. I think it's like, it sounded like you're a person who, when you thought about the word forever, it was scary. And I think for the people that feel that way, that one day at a time makes complete sense. And then for people like me, I'm like, oh, forever sounds beautiful. So,
no, and like, I think
you just got to know yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about learning about yourself.
I just have to stop lying to myself also. You know, like the denial is so strong, like about, yeah, maybe one day. It's like, no, please don't get it out of your mind. It's not going to be, that's not the truth.
Yeah. You have lots of evidence that if you try again one day, it's going to end up how it's always ended up.
And I'm like, just focus on yourself. Focus on healing, and we'll see where like that lands. But what's funny, the one day at a time, that's something my dad, they say in AA a lot. And so I made my moniker one drink at a time. So I'm a real asshole. But seriously, like it really is, it is easier to focus kind of just on like, I'm just going to be okay today.
Yeah. I mean, it takes the pressure off. Like when you start tripping about the future or whatever, that adds a lot of pressure on. So I think one day at a time is chill. What do you think people don't understand about addiction?
That's a big one. I think that they don't realize that how traumatized most people are, and that you didn't get this way for no reason, because they don't really throw a lot of the whole nurture versus nature and saying that it's like you're predisposed because your parents. Yeah, we could maybe get into all that, but really it comes down to trauma and something happened to you. People don't just start drinking like this because they're happy and healed and fine. And so I think that there's the stigma is a lot better now than it was obviously a long time ago, in mental health in general, but people, kind of villainize active addiction, and I just think, like, have some compassion, because something probably happened to that person. Like, why else would they destroy their life?
I agree. I've talked to a lot of people about addiction on this podcast and elsewhere, and not a single one of them was like, my life was perfect. My life was perfect, and I just said, fuck you, everyone. I'm going to go do drugs.
I wanted to become a problem.
Yeah, no one has ever said that, so that's a wonderful point. And if you could talk to someone who's in their, darkest days of addiction right now, what would you say to them?
Somebody loves you enough, so, don't give up.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, me too.
Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Pettit made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.